Hi and welcome to the Chapter 4 review. This is Miss Guida. Follow along with the video and copy the notes to complete the problem. Feel free to pause and re-watch parts of the video until you feel confident with the material. Number 1 says, solve for x in the following triangle. Look at this triangle and figure out what type of triangle it really is. We notice we have two congruent sides, which also means the angles across from them are congruent. So this right side angle would also be 9x plus 1. They're giving us all of the angles in the triangle, which we know add up to 180. So let's make an equation that says that. 9x plus 1 plus 9x plus 1 plus 88 equals 180 degrees. Combine your like terms, everything with an x gives you 18x plus all of the numbers add up to 90 is equal to 180. We're going to subtract 90 from both sides and get 18x is equal to 90. And finally, when you divide, x equals 5. This problem only asks us to solve for x, so we're done. If the question asks you to go back and plug it in, make sure you plug in x anywhere, plug in a 5 anywhere you see an x. Number 2 wants us to figure out what angle A is and what side AC is. Now, angle A is missing, but let's see what kind of triangle it is. We have two angles that are congruent. That means this is an isosceles triangle. And all three angles should add up to 180. So we're going to do 180 minus 48, and 48 would be 96. So I'll subtract, and that gives us 84 degrees. That means angle A is 84 degrees. We said this was an isosceles triangle, and since those two angles were equal, the sides across from them would be equal. If AB is 9 feet, AC is also 9 feet. Number 3 wants to know what method you could use to prove these two triangles are congruent. Remember, there's 3 things we can always mark: vertical angles, reflexive sides, and alternate interior angles. In this problem, we note that we can mark our vertical angles. So these two that are across from each other, I'm going to mark with 2 arcs to show that they're congruent. Lastly, I'll label the sides and angles with little a's and s's. That was a side, that was an angle, and this is an angle. So that makes us angle, angle, side. Answer choice B. That's because the side is not in between our 2 angles. Number 4 wants to know what method could be used to prove that these triangles are congruent. Again, look for one of the 3 things you're allowed to mark. In this problem, we have a reflexive side, so mark it. Label one of the triangles with our A's and S's. This was a side, and this was a side, and we have our reflexive side, which becomes side, side, side. Do not make any assumptions. I know you are tempted to mark right angles, but you can't mark them unless the problem says so. Proof questions. Start with your given. We know that NL bisects angle KNM. If an angle's been bisected, it's been split into 2 congruent parts. So I know both of those angles in the left corner are congruent. Similarly, it bisects the upper right corner into 2 equal parts. So I'm going to mark those angles are congruent. The last thing we're able to do is mark our reflexive side. We have 3 pieces of information on this triangle, so we can start filling in our proof. Statement 1's your given. NL bisects your 2 angles, KNM and angle KLM. 1 was given. Now, anything on the picture needs to be stated in the proof. So I'll start with the blue angles that we marked. Angle KNL, is equal to angle LNM. We know that because we had a bisector. That'll be definition of a bisector. Similarly, we're going to put in our red angles that are congruent. Angle KLN is congruent to angle MLN. Again, don't think too hard. They use the word bisect in the problem. We'll use bisect in the answer. Definition of a bisector. The other thing you guys marked on your picture was that NL equals NL. Anytime something equals itself, that's going to be the reflexive property. Finally, we always end our proof with what it tells us to prove. Don't think too hard. Copy exactly what it has. Triangle NKL is congruent to triangle LMN, and that's because we've marked an angle, a side, and an angle. The next question wants to know which of the following could represent the side lengths of a triangle. The rule is, this is stuff from last chapter, that the small side plus the medium side must be bigger than the large one. Let's go through our answer choices and see what works. If I add 11 and 17, that'll be bigger than 19. That one works. If I add our two small sides, 23 and 28, that gives us 51. That is not bigger than 52, so that's out. If I add my two small sides here, 9 and 25, it gives me 34, but I want it to be bigger than 34, so that doesn't work. And on the last one, if I add 13 and 14, it gives me 27, which is bigger than 22. So the last one's an answer as well. The next question, which of the following lists the sides in order from shortest to longest? Underline the order that it wants. The first thing you should realize is that you're missing an angle in this triangle. All three of the angles should add up to 180. So we're missing 68 degrees in that corner. The shortest side is across from the smallest angle, so I draw a line straight across. That's going to start with DF. The only answer choice that begins with DF is answer choice D, but if we keep going, the middle side would be DE, the largest one would be EF. It's answer choice D, we said. Two sides of a triangle measure 17 inches and 9 inches, which cannot be the length of the remaining side. Again, this is information from last chapter. If they give us two sides of a triangle, I'm going to make an inequality where I add them and subtract our two numbers. So 17 minus 9 would give us 8, and 17 plus 9 would give us 26. All the numbers in between work, and the numbers that are not in between do not work. Therefore, choice B, 26, does not work. Number 9 says, which extra information would we need in order to prove it congruent by side, angle, side? Look at our triangles. We've already marked the two sides. So I'm going to cross that out. That means the only thing left for us to mark is an angle. This angle needs to be in between the two sides, which means I'm going to need angle V on the left triangle and angle Y on the right triangle. So we would want to know angle V is congruent to angle Y. 10. What congruence theorem proves the following two triangles are congruent? Make sure you write your congruence statement. Well, before we start, we know we can mark our reflexive side. So BC is equal to BC. That means they're going to be congruent by side, angle, side. And now I just need to name the triangles correctly. Angle A will match up with the top corner, angle D. Angle C on the left triangle matches up with angle B on the right triangle. And B would then match up with C. Be careful about how things are marked. Number 11. Given that these two triangles are congruent, find the value of x and y. The first thing to note is that angle R matches up with angle T. Angle W is a right angle. That's going to match up with angle U. And angle S, I'll put 2 marks through it, is equal to angle V. We might realize that we don't have a measure for angle T, but we could figure that out. All of the angles in a triangle should add up to 180 degrees. That means we're missing a 61 for angle T. We can make an equation in order to solve for x because angle R equals angle T. So 8x minus 27 equals 61. Add 27 to both sides. 8x is equal to 88. X equals 11. Similarly, for our sides, 3y plus 7 would match up with the side, the hypotenuse, which is 25 in this problem. Solving for y, you get 3y is equal to 18. Y is equal to 6. Last problem tells us these two triangles are congruent. I would make sure I mark up my picture correctly. D matches up with G. I'm going to put 1 arc through both of those. And E is going to have 2 arcs, is going to match up with J with 2 arcs. That means F is going to be 105 degrees. Starting with my angles, angle F is going to be 105 degrees. We just marked it. Angle G had 1 arc through it. That was 34 degrees. And angle J had 2 arcs through it. Now that's missing on both of them. But we know all of the angles in a triangle should add up to 180. So if we subtract 34 and 105 from 180, it leaves us with 41 degrees. Now let's look at the sides. It's important to see what kind of markings they're in between. DF is between the 1 arc and the 105. So that means that it's going to match up with 16 between the 1 arc and the 105. JH is between the 2 arcs and the 105. 2 arcs and 105 on the left is at 14 meters. And GJ is between the 1 arc and 2 arcs. On the left, between the 1 arc and 2 arcs is 19.